welcome to the podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about creating a marketing system in your coaching business because I know that the overwhelm with creating content and doing the actions to market your coaching business and sell your coaching offers can feel really overwhelming. And it's something that I hear coaches talk about being overwhelmed with. So let's dive into it today. Hello, and welcome to the Life First Coaching Business Podcast. I'm your host, Leonie, and I'm all about helping new coaches like you create life first businesses you love by building out the key foundations you need for an easeful and joyful business, where you get to make an impact doing what lights you up and helping others. We talk about the strategies, the systems, and the mindset you need to make your coaching business work for you. So let's dive in. The reason I wanted to cover this today is because it's been something that's on my mind. And the reason is because at the start of the year, I launched my group program. Once that was finished in early February, I was very focused on creating all the content for the program, finishing that off, working with clients. And I kind of felt in that way, like when you've got to the end of a big milestone or it's like running a marathon, you kind of need to take a bit of a breather and a rest at the end of it. And I really felt like I retreated from marketing. What's interesting though is a networking event the other day, someone said to me, "Oh, you're really good at always showing up." And I think that to me, I felt like I'd totally sort of disappeared, but was creating the minimum and at least still showing up every week. So it just goes to show that that is beneficial and that's a noticeable thing. So I was still putting out, I think I might have missed 1 week on my podcast. I was still putting out a podcast and sending an email to my list and posting at least once or twice on, most of the time just making sure those were quite simple things to create while I focused on other things in my business. But now I'm kind of back to a point where I've got past that milestone of creating all the content for my program, and I'm focused on the coaching calls I'm doing with my group clients and my one-on-one clients. And I've got more space again now to focus on marketing. So I've kind of sat down in the last couple of days and thought, okay, what do I want to have going on? What's my plan over the next 8 weeks? And what system am I going to put in place? But the first thing I want to say about creating a marketing system in your coaching business, and when I say system, I'm talking about habits and a process that you follow, which you can keep repeating. And this is the best way to approach most things in your business, because if it's just reinventing the wheel every time, it's very haphazard and scattergun. It's really hard for you to get momentum with it. It's really hard for you to stay consistent. And I will stress that I think consistency is more important than putting out a lot of content, but doing it very haphazardly. You're better off to put out less and do it consistently than to have like sudden bursts of putting out loads of content. And I know that everyone's personality is different and sometimes you'll be feeling inspired and you want to create a lot. But if that's the case, then batch in a big go and kind of spread that out over some time if you can. And I actually had a conversation on a coaching call this week with a business owner who was feeling overwhelmed by just the pressure of feeling like she had to post lots of content. Whereas if you actually set a goal that feels light and achievable, you're much more likely to take action and do it. And this is something I've learned time and time again as a business owner, that as soon as you set a goal that feels really daunting and overwhelming in terms of things like, I'm going to post every single day or I'm going to post 5 times a week, if you're going from 0 to that, it can just feel like, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. So the best thing to do is set yourself a goal that feels like it's pushing you slightly, but it feels achievable. So you're not setting yourself up to fail, and then build from there. So say you were saying, I'm just going to post once a week. That's better than posting 0 times a week or only posting a couple of times a month and then leaving it a few weeks without posting. Start with something that you can stick to consistently and then build from there. If you're in the very early stages of your coaching business and you've got the time to put towards your business, but you're not yet working a lot with clients, this is an opportunity for you to create more content if you can. And the good thing about creating more content is you learn from what you post, you collect data as you're posting, and you can learn more quickly. But as I always say, don't launch into creating loads of content and posting until you're really clear on your message and the foundations of your business, who you're talking to, what they need to hear from you, what the message you're trying to get across is, and the offer that you're selling off the back of that content. Because until you've got those foundations in place, your content just isn't going to be working for you. And I would much rather you put your time and energy into nailing those foundations and then putting your time and energy into creating content in alignment with that strategy. Once you're clear on those foundations, set a goal that feels achievable and build from there. So when it comes to things like social media content, what feels like a slight push, but not into the realms of, I don't even know where to start, like I'm overwhelmed. If that's 1 post a week, 2 posts a week, whatever it is, do something that you can be consistent with to start with. My goals around my marketing is to focus on my main platform, which is Instagram, keep putting out my podcast, and keep building and nurturing my email list. So those are my core platforms that I'm using for my marketing. And I am currently running some ads to my lead magnet, sending emails to those people, which give them podcast episodes to listen to, kind of summarized in an email. But if they want to listen more, to go over to my podcast. So that's kind of where I'm driving people to in order to nurture them. And then I'm just making sure that I'm always giving clear calls to action on my post. The call to action to book a discovery call. Some of them will have a call to action to listen to the podcast. Some will have a call to action to download my lead magnet. And I now have a suite of things that I can talk about in my business. But if you've only got one thing, which is a discovery call, focus on that. And it doesn't mean that in every post you have to just be saying, book a discovery call, but it's thinking like at the end of a caption or at the end of a video, giving that call to action. Because those are the people that have hung around the longest. They've stayed until the end of your video or they've read to the end of your caption. So make sure there's always that clear call to action at the end. So you really want to be thinking about 3 phases of your marketing. Is number 1, how you are attracting new leads into your business, getting your business in front of new eyeballs, then nurturing those leads with content that's going to help them start to see the solution to their problem and see your coaching as the answer and the solution to their problem. And then making offers, inviting them to take the next step with you. Whether that's to book a free call with you or to join your email list or whatever it is. You want to be focused on those 3 phases. Make sure you're covering those every single week in your coaching business. Then choose your platforms. And that could look like your social media platform of choice. And then maybe you're sending emails to nurture. Maybe you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, but some longer form content can be a really good way of nurturing people. Maybe you just have one signature online training that you're sending people to, but some way of giving them all those elements in your messaging that you know takes them through the journey to see you as their ideal solution, and then giving them those calls to action. And it's not just a linear direct thing. You know, people will be coming in at different points, they'll pop out, they'll come back. So you want to have a system where you can keep creating content in a way that feels sustainable and in a way that feels not overwhelming and doable. So a big part of that is obviously getting clear on that message, getting clear on those foundations so you know what you need to be saying. And then it's having a system. So this is what I'm using when it comes to creating my content. And the way I'm going about it is I'm aiming to post a mixture of content, and you can choose what feels most aligned for you and also gets you the most results in your business. And I would say I still haven't really landed on that myself. And so I am aiming to do a mixture of a couple of reels per week, a carousel post, and a talking head video. Now, those are the ones that I do find most time consuming to create sometimes, but I know that they are probably the thing that people are talking about. They're working most effectively on Instagram right now as those talking head reels or videos. So that's what I'm aiming for, is those 4 posts a week, and then I'll repurpose my podcast in a couple of posts as well. The way I approach it is thinking about the hook for that post. What's the angle that I'm using on that post, and what's a good hook that I can have in the first 3 seconds, which speaks directly to the person my content is aimed at, which is new health, wellness, and life coaches. And first I'll do the hook and then I'll do the caption before I start editing in Instagram or deciding on what piece of video footage I'm going to use. And I just have a bank of stuff sitting in my phone, which I've added to a folder called B-roll or content. And I'll just find something in there. And sometimes I'll have a day where I'll create a few different videos and things. Otherwise, I'm just sort of grabbing bits of video and photos when I'm on the go and I'm out and about. So hook, then caption, then video and music, which I'll add to it. So that's how I'm going about creating my posts. If it's the talking head one, then I'll kind of draft an outline. Usually I'll use ChatGPT to help me kind of pull my ideas together and put it in some kind of structure. Then I'll make sure I've got a clear hook for that video, and then I'll write the caption, and then I'll record it. So I've kind of got those written elements created up front before I go ahead and record it. And likewise with the carousel, I'll write out all the text that's going to go on each slide of the post. I'll write out the caption, and then I'll go and make the graphic or choose the photo that I'm going to use for the carousel. So a marketing day for me would look like 1 podcast, 1 email, which is converting that podcast into an email, and those 4 social posts. So the first thing I would do is sit down and map out what those are all about, what the theme of them is. Then I'd outline the podcast, write the hooks and the captions for each of the posts. Then I'd record the podcast, record the talking head, create the graphics and videos for the posts, and then schedule everything and post it. So that's what my marketing system essentially looks like. I have a really good workflow around putting my podcast out so that it's nice and simple. I record it straight into a program called Descript. That allows you to edit it by just editing the transcript, which is great. All in all, I can get my podcast recorded, edited, and uploaded in like an hour, basically, if it's a sort of 15-20 minute episode. Then I'd spend a couple of hours creating all those posts, and then maybe half an hour scheduling it all and getting it all up into the app. So that's my marketing done for the week. Now, obviously, this is an ideal situation. My energy levels and creativity levels fluctuate like anyone else's, but that's what I'm aiming for. And that's the kind of ideal situation, what I'd sit down. And I try to do that on a Monday if I can. And that's my marketing system. And as I say, always making sure all those posts have some kind of clear call to action. Another thing I do with my podcast, or I'll start doing more, is adding a post-roll or pre-roll where you can kind of record a little snippet which will play at the beginning or end of every single episode. So if someone's listening to an old episode, they'll still hear that post-reel or pre-reel, which can be around the thing you're promoting at that time, which is a really handy tool to use in the podcast. So for instance, if there's a particular offer that I'm talking about, or if I'm driving people to my lead magnet or something like that, I'll make sure that is added to the podcast. And that's something I want to start using really consistently so that I'm always making the most of that feature and just changing it out according to what I'm talking about. So that's the core strategy in my marketing system. And then other things that I might be doing outside of that are repurposing some of my videos or podcast clips onto YouTube and putting them up as YouTube shorts. Again, this is something I've literally done like a couple of shorts, but it's something I know is there and something that maybe I will look to outsource at some point, or repurposing all the content for YouTube. I also automatically upload all my Instagram posts to Pinterest, and I will occasionally repurpose my podcast into a few pins and share those on Pinterest as well. And yeah, just talking then about making sure I'm kind of focusing on different offers. I have my one-on-one coaching where I'd be driving people to book a discovery call. I will be periodically launching my group program. I have my Canva brand kit, which is my lowest cost offer to help coaches develop their brand identity so they can stand out and not get stuck in procrasta branding. So that offer is something actually that I'm looking to promote mostly on Pinterest, because that's probably the place that coaches are going to be going to look for inspiration on creating their brand identity and designing their logo and coming up with the look and feel for their brand. So that's a great place for me to promote that offer. It's also going to be an upsell that I can offer on the back of my mini course. I have my mini course, which is my business planning mini course. So I have that suite of offers now, those 4 things, and then also my free lead magnets. So always just making sure that I have calls to action to one of those offers or to my podcast. And that's my strategy. So as I say, it's been developed off the back of me being really, really clear about who my ideal client is, the things that they need to know and hear about from me to pay attention and be interested and to feel like they're getting value from what I'm sharing. The key is in being consistent. Are you clear on those foundations? If you're not clear on those foundations yet, then you should get in touch with me and we should have a chat and I can talk you through how we could work together to get you crystal clear on those foundations so that you know exactly what you are selling, what you need to be saying to get people ready to hear about your offer and to attract the right people. And then you can come up with a system for yourself that feels aligned with what you enjoy doing most and feels doable and sustainable. And then you can assess how it's going for you, look at how it's working and tweak it and improve it to give you the results you need. And that's the other key when it comes to your marketing strategy, is you want to be reverse engineering it from the number of clients that you want to sign into your coaching business. And that might look like, if you know your goal is to book free clarity calls or discovery calls and turn those calls into clients, you would have an aim around how many of those calls you'd like to be converting. So say you had the aim of converting 75% of your discovery calls into clients. So for every 4 calls you do, you're signing 3 clients. And then if you know, okay, I need 3 clients every month, then you know that you're aiming for 4 discovery calls every month. So how are you going to get 4 discovery calls? And then you might be thinking, I want to be personally reaching out to at least 15 people to try and get those 4 calls booked. But I want to establish that those are people that are actually interested in what I do before I reach out to them. So then I'm going to be creating content which just helps me establish people that are interested by encouraging engagement. And I call it hand-raising content. So that could be your goal, is creating that hand-raising content, seeing when people show interest in what you do, giving the call to action to book a call, but then also reaching out to those people that have engaged with you, had conversations with you, made connections with you, and inviting them for that free call and letting them know what value they're going to get on that free call. So always reverse engineer so that you've got a clear plan, and then you can assess whether it's working, whether you're hitting those numbers based on the strategy, and whether you're saying, for instance, well, I'm reaching out to 10 people every week, but I'm only booking 2 discovery calls and I want to be booking 3. So I'll start reaching out to 15 people every week. And you can get much more strategic around the results that you're looking for from that marketing plan, rather than just creating something and hoping that it achieves what you want when you don't really have a clear idea of what that is, or any clear idea of how to review it and assess it and refine it and tweak it if it's not working. There is number one, get crystal clear on the foundations of your business before you start focusing on putting all your energy into your marketing strategy. Then create a marketing strategy that feels aligned and feels doable and build from there. And then make sure you've reverse engineered your goals when it comes to that marketing strategy in terms of the number of clients that you want to sign, how you're going about inviting them to hear about your offer, and therefore what you need to be doing to get those numbers through the door. Again, you want to be thinking about those 3 stages of attracting the right people, nurturing them with information that's going to help them see you as a solution, and then selling to them in a value-based way. And don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to do it all. Don't think that you need to be on all the platforms. Think about where your ideal client hangs out. Overlap that with where you prefer to hang out, where you like to be, and the kind of content that you enjoy creating. And focus on what feels good. And I know it's hard when you're just starting out to know exactly what feels good, because maybe it all feels a bit uncomfortable, and that's totally normal. But just remember that the more you take action, the faster you'll learn, the faster you'll improve, the easier it will feel. Don't put the expectation on yourself that things need to be perfect. That's where I see most coaches getting stuck, is putting pressure on themselves for it to be perfect. So take fast action, and this would probably be one of the few scenarios where I'd suggest quantity over quality. And that's not to say that you're putting out really bad quality stuff, but 80% is good enough. Put things out that don't feel 100% in order to learn, in order to improve, because until you start putting things out there, you just have no information to go off. So yeah, those are all my tips for coming up with your marketing strategy. But if there's one thing I'd like you to take from this episode, is don't feel the pressure to focus your energy here until you've got really clear on those foundations, because I think that's what a lot of coaches end up doing, is they kind of skip over the foundations and they haven't got the clarity that's going to really take them forward before they start putting energy into social media content and things. And I just see the frustration in that so often. So definitely focus on those foundations first, and then create this strategy for yourself to get in front of the right people and nurture them and sell to them. So that's it for today. And if you've got any questions on this, or you want to connect with me further, come over onto Instagram and find me there at leonie.businesscoach. And I'd love to chat further. Have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon.